Now, the thing I want to ask you is WelleCo is very female-focused. It's a female-focused brand. Mm. How is it, being a male, as CEO of a company where it is all about women's health?
Yep.
I guess, what have you learned? Yeah, how's that? Well, not how it works, because there's obviously male doctors, there's male practitioners, and I think it's an important conversation. I think there's a lot of value to it.
My whole career's been in consumer goods industry, and you learn to understand who your customer are deeply. I find it fascinating. I find it really interesting. I think because I am a male and won't go through it, I find it even more interesting. I'm of that age where my contemporaries' wives are going through that stage, that midlife stage, and my wife is not quite yet, but seeing some things change. And I find it profoundly rewarding that we bring products to market that are solution-driven, that really change people's lives. We get thousands and thousands of customers who write in and tell us that. So as I said at the start, it was a bit by accident, got involved in the mission, and now deeply understanding of who our customers are and what impact we have and what impact the overall industry is having and will have as we put wellness under the spotlight and women's health under the spotlight. And then you look at midlife, and we have an incredible amount of women in the world at that stage, and that's only going to get bigger, particularly in the Western world where we have an aging population. To bring solutions to that stage is hugely rewarding. So I feel really fortunate that I'm in that role.
Being able to look at all of that and having more access to information research, what the customer wants or client wants. And I've sort of just touched on this, but traditional medicine's really still struggling to meet women where they're at. How is it that you've been able to, what have you seen in that sense, and how is it that you've been able to bridge that?
We really research who our customer is. We have someone dedicated to that full-time, interviewing customers all over the world, and there's a few things that really stand out for me. It's agnostic across the world, so people are going through the same thoughts, feelings, physical, emotional changes. What we also hear is that it almost feels like there's not many places to go. General doctors don't tend to understand what you can do outside of medication. There's a lot more you can do, which is the realm we play in. There's a lot of unmet needs around products and solutions for women. There's a lack of resources and education. There's a real frustration around, well, where do I go for the right information? And so it's this whole unmet need, if you like, that we hear. And we just think that it's an exciting development. There's a long way to go. I generalize here because not everyone, there are GPs who are more advanced in knowledge around it, but generally speaking, we hear from customers that a GP might say, it's normal, you might just have to deal with it.
Write it out.
Oh, we can give you medication. There's a lot of our customers, particularly who are health conscious, who are proactive about their health, who are not quite ready to go to, HRT, for instance. There's a big gap, which is what we hear. So our mission has been to empower women on their wellness journey. And empower is a really important word because it gives people control back. It gives people the ability to be in the driver's seat wherever you are. And that's what we sort of feel our role is in this.
I'm very clear on always saying it's not a this or a that scenario, and I think that's exactly what you're saying. There's your way, which is very important, that you are advocating for what that is.
Yeah.
I put something on Instagram the other day and I'm like, no amount of HRT can outrun high stress levels, cortisol. That can't change any of that. It might pad things a little bit. You have to look at the fundamental foundations that you're creating.
Yeah, exactly.
And often it's not the result of what medicine does, but medicine in a woman's day might be 1% at the time of what she's doing at her day.
Lots of variables.
Yeah. And it's all the other things that you can bring to the table as well that I think is really important. But I think that's missing. The lifestyle, the nutrition, that approach is often missing. The system's actually broken because your doctor's not going to discuss that with you. What have they got? 15 minutes at best, maybe.
At best, yeah.
That's not what they're there for. And so, yes, the system's broken. it is a little bit outdated.
Yep.
We're talking a lot more about bioidentical hormones as well now, and that's a different conversation, and it's not what you do, so that's not really ours to discuss. But I think what is important is that alone may be a disservice to women because they're still experiencing a whole lot of other symptoms that are a result of other things that are happening in their life.
Even just from our own experience, yours and mine and others, it's quite fragmented. Doctors will refer you to certain specialists but may not refer you to another modality that they don't necessarily believe in. There's that. And then different countries are ahead of others. If you go to the United States, for instance, you will find a chain of women's clinics that are dedicated to perimenopause and menopause. You don't have those here. There are different development that's happening. I think it'll all catch up, but it is definitely broken, if you like, or needs more work. And there's a lack of education around it too, so couldn't agree more.
There definitely is a lack of education. I think even from a young age is where the education really needs to start. I always say to parents is the minute your child starts to ask you about, where I come from, how did I get in your tummy, we have these conversations that are factual. Imagine if that conversation just kept on going. This current theme with so much noise about it is setting women up to think it's going to be terrible.
That's something that we hear. Certainly if you ask me what surprised you about it, that's one of them. It is the lack of understanding until you're almost there, where your friends are talking about it. Women say to us, I just didn't even know anything about this. It does start in education. If you go back into look at schools, and even when we were at school, health education is still what it was. Right. It's still safe sex.
Don't have sex, you'll have babies.
Yeah, exactly. And for girls, it's, this is what's going to happen when you go through puberty. And for boys, this is what's going to happen. It is not anything about later on in life. And actually, if you look at the average age that a woman has a baby now, just the averages and what age their children are by the time they go through health education, it's not far off when mum might be starting to go through perimenopause symptoms or those early signs, and the kids don't understand. So the husband doesn't understand. I think that's a miss. I think that the education in schools could be really beneficial by having a discussion with kids about that, and then saying that it is a transition. It's not something to be feared. It's something that you can be proactive about, as we would say, be empowered to go through that.
Hopefully someday soon that might start to integrate. I think the conversation has gotten a little bit better, but it's still not great in schools. And I've watched my children and what they've been taught, if that's the right word at that point, because it's more not teaching, it's more just a conversation. Certainly better than what we got, but absolutely not there yet. There's just a big gap. You led me straight into my next question, which was being a husband of someone who is at an age where noticing things are changing, not necessarily in the thick of it. And the thick of it's something else that I laugh at, because some of us might never actually be in the thick of it. Like someone asked me that question, how do I know if I'm in the thick of it? And I'm like, well, I hope you're never in the thick of it.
Yeah, because lots you can do.
Correct. But supporting and watching that, being a husband through that, has that given you any further insights?
Oh, it has. And it's been funny having, I've got 4 kids and 3 daughters that are teenagers, and a son who's 11. And my 15-year-old daughter laughs that I almost talk about menopause more than I do football, which is saying something. And we talk about it a bit, but what it has done is, because it's my work, we have conversations about it at dinner table or whenever. And so it's become a bit normal to have that. And my wife's a naturopath. She's very proactive. She's vegetarian. She does yoga 3 times a week. She's going to be ready, right? Ready, if there's a word. But my 10-year-old son is interesting, because he said to me in the car one day, Dad, I hear you say menopause. What is that? We had a conversation about hormones, and it led into that. But then it led into a conversation about hormones for men and for what he will experience. And, he's going to have these bursts of anger, and he's going to have to learn to control that. I think normalizing the conversation is great for the whole family unit. And I'm certain that it equips us better to have a more supportive role for my wife when she may feel a bit off, or she may emotionally not feel great, or whatever she may be feeling. The support that it can bring is what could be quite a big change in families of the future.